In January 2015, the Amazon River in Brazil witnessed a jaw-dropping incident that left everyone speechless. A swimming enthusiast, enjoying the shimmering waters, became an unwitting victim of the infamous Candiru fish. This tiny, vampire-like parasite is notorious for its invasive tendencies. Known locally as the vampire fish, the Candiru is attracted to urine and can enter the human body through the most horrifying means. As our swimmer blissfully splashed around, the Candiru detected the urinary signal, darting toward its unsuspecting prey. In a gruesome twist, the fish made its way into the swimmer's urethra, inflicting excruciating pain. As he screamed in agony, the true horror began. Medical intervention was essential, but the fish's barbed structure made extraction nearly impossible. After a harrowing ordeal, doctors managed to remove the parasite, but the damage was irreversible. The swimmer was left with long-term complications, enduring chronic pain and a life forever altered. The Candiru's infamous reputation was cemented that day, a reminder that nature can be both beautiful and terrifying. Beware the waters, for lurking within could be your worst nightmare. In the summer of 1854, London became the epicenter of a catastrophic cholera outbreak, leaving the city in a state of sheer terror. In just a few weeks, over 600 people per day were succumbing to this vile disease. The streets, once bustling with life, transformed into scenes of death and despair. It all began in Soho, where the Broad Street pump became infamous as the source of contamination. People were literally dropping dead in the streets. The symptoms were gruesome: violent diarrhea, severe dehydration, and intense abdominal pain. Victims often turned blue before their deaths, a horrific sight that haunted the survivors. The stench of death filled the air, and the cries of the afflicted echoed through the alleys. Medical knowledge was primitive at the time, and doctors were baffled, resorting to bloodletting and bizarre treatments. The true cause of cholera, a waterborne bacterium, was unknown, leading to widespread panic. As families buried their loved ones in mass graves, the city struggled to contain the madness. This tragedy exposed the dire need for clean water and sanitation, ultimately changing public health practices forever, though it came at a devastating cost. In 2013, in the lush jungles of Costa Rica, a gruesome phenomenon unfolded that would chill the spine of anyone who dared to explore nature's darkest corners. The infamous Ophiocordyceps unilateralis fungus, known as the zombie ant fungus, begins its horrifying takeover by infiltrating the body of an unsuspecting worker ant. This parasite is no ordinary fungus. It hijacks the ant's nervous system, controlling its mind like a puppet on strings. Imagine this. The ant, under the influence of the fungus, climbs to a high point on a leaf, clamping down with its mandibles in a death grip as the fungus grows inside, consuming it from within. Days later, the ant's body becomes a grotesque monument, sprouting fungal stalks that release spores to infect others. This gruesome cycle of life and death is nature's brutal reminder of the predator-prey relationship. The very essence of the ant is obliterated, replaced by a relentless parasite that leaves nothing but horror in its wake. Such is the savage brutality of the natural world, where beauty and terror coexist in a mind-bending dance of survival, and nothing is ever quite what it seems. In November 2019, in a small town in Brazil, a woman named Maria encountered a sinister parasite known as Toxoplasma gondii. Initially, it seemed harmless, lurking in undercooked meat and cat feces, waiting for its chance to strike. As the days turned into weeks, Maria began to experience strange symptoms: hallucinations, paranoia, and a growing sense of dread. Friends and family watched helplessly as she spiraled into madness. The parasite was hijacking her brain, transforming her into a shadow of her former self. Doctors were baffled. Traditional tests failed to reveal the true menace within her. Finally, a specialist recognized the symptoms of toxoplasmosis, but it was too late. The parasite had taken hold, unleashing chaos in her mind. As Maria fought against the creeping insanity, her body began to fail her. The infection spread, leading to severe neurological damage. Just months after her initial exposure, Maria succumbed to the effects of the parasite, leaving behind a tragic tale of how a tiny organism can wreak havoc on a human life. Her story serves as a grim reminder of nature's dark side, lurking in the shadows, ready to pounce when least expected. In 2017, a man in Florida experienced a nightmare that would haunt him until his last breath. In the sweltering heat of summer, he went for a swim at a local beach, blissfully unaware of the lurking danger beneath the surface. The waters were infested with a deadly parasite called Naegleria fowleri, a brain-eating amoeba that thrives in warm fresh water. Just days after his swim, he suddenly fell ill, suffering from severe headaches, fever, and an unrelenting sense of dread. Doctors initially misdiagnosed his symptoms, attributing them to a common virus. But as his condition worsened, the truth became horrifyingly clear. By the time they identified the parasite, it was too late. The amoeba invaded his brain, causing meningitis, and the man was trapped in a living hell. As the infection progressed, he experienced terrifying hallucinations and horrific seizures, his body ravaged by a relentless predator. Family and friends watched in horror as he deteriorated, his flesh seemingly devoured from within, a grotesque spectacle of suffering. In less than a week, he succumbed to the parasite, leaving behind a chilling reminder of nature's brutality. This tragic tale serves as a stark warning. Even a simple swim can unleash unimaginable horrors hidden beneath the surface, lurking, waiting to strike. In Lake Jackson, Texas, a horrifying event unfolded in 2013 that would send chills down anyone's spine. A young boy, just 12 years old, became the victim of the brain-eating amoeba known as Naegleria fowleri. This microscopic monster lurked in the warm waters of a local water park, patiently waiting for its unsuspecting prey. On a fateful day in late August, the boy dove into the park's untreated water. As he splashed around, the amoeba surged up his nose, entering his bloodstream and targeting the very core of his being, his brain. Within days, he exhibited severe symptoms: headaches, fever, nausea. This was no ordinary illness. In a cruel twist, doctors raced against time, but the odds were grim. By the time he was diagnosed, the amoeba wreaked havoc, leading to a devastating case of primary amoebic meningoencephalitis. His brain swelled, functions deteriorated, and within mere days he was gone. This tragic tale paints a vivid picture of how a sunny day at the lake morphed into a nightmare, showcasing the darkness that can lurk in seemingly innocent places. It serves as a grim reminder of nature's deadly capabilities. In August 2016, Madagascar became the stage for a nightmarish encounter with a deadly parasite known as Angiostrongylus cantonensis, also called the rat lungworm. This horror unfolded when a local man, seeking a culinary adventure, decided to indulge in contaminated raw snails. Little did he know, these seemingly innocuous mollusks harbored a lethal secret. After consuming the dish, his world spiraled into chaos as the parasite invaded his body, unleashing a relentless assault on his nervous system. He experienced excruciating headaches, paralyzing pain, and horrific hallucinations, a true descent into madness. Doctors struggled to diagnose the mystery affliction as the man's condition deteriorated rapidly. The parasite wreaked havoc, leading to meningitis and severe neurological damage. His limbs weakened, speech slurred, and sanity teetered on the brink. Within weeks, the once vibrant man became a shell of his former self, battling a parasite that turned his body into a battleground. In a tragic twist, he succumbed to the relentless invasion, leaving behind a cautionary tale of a moment's choice that led to unimaginable horror. Madagascar, a paradise, became a graveyard for one man's fatal curiosity. In 2004, in the bustling city of San Pedro, California, an alarming event unfolded that would send chills down the spine of anyone who heard it. A 45-year-old man named Mark fell victim to a horrifying case of larva migrans, a parasitic infection caused by hookworm larvae. Mark began experiencing severe abdominal pain, fever, and the sensation of something crawling beneath his skin. He shrugged it off, attributing it to a bad burrito. But as days passed, his symptoms escalated into a nightmare. Doctors were baffled when they examined him, discovering the larvae had migrated through his tissues, causing severe internal damage. The parasites were literally feasting on his body from the inside. Imagine a horror movie where the monster is inside you, feeding and growing stronger. Mark's condition deteriorated rapidly, leading to organ failure. With every passing hour, his health declined. The once vibrant man was reduced to a shell, ever weaker as the larvae wreaked havoc. Ultimately, Mark succumbed to the relentless grip of this grotesque parasite, leaving behind a cautionary tale of what can happen when you underestimate the power of nature's darkest elements. In 2008, in the heart of Brazil, a man named Ricardo found himself ensnared in the sinister grip of Toxoplasma gondii, a parasite commonly found in cats. Initially, he brushed off the vague symptoms, fatigue, fever, and a gnawing headache, as just another flu. Little did he know this parasite was slowly hijacking his mind and body. As the days dragged on, his personality began to shift. Friends noticed his sudden bursts of rage, bouts of paranoia, and erratic behavior. The parasite was not just devouring his physical health, it was infiltrating his brain, altering his thoughts and actions. It's said that Toxoplasma can manipulate behavior, transforming its host into a reckless version of themselves. Ricardo's descent became a horror show. He started taking reckless risks, speeding through streets, engaging in violent confrontations, and even alienating his loved ones. Eventually, the chaos culminated in a near-fatal accident, leaving him in a coma. Doctors scrambled to diagnose the cause, but it was too late. Toxoplasma had claimed another victim, turning a once normal life into a catastrophic saga of madness and loss. A real-life horror story hidden behind the cute face of a cat. In August 2011 in Lake Worth, Florida, a 20-year-old man named Fabrizio Stabile went for a swim that would lead him to a horrific fate. Little did he know that he would be exposed to Naegleria fowleri, the notorious brain-eating amoeba. This microscopic monster thrives in warm freshwater and invades through the nasal passages, wreaking havoc on the brain. Fabrizio plunged into the murky waters, unaware of the lurking danger. Days later, he started experiencing severe headaches, fever, and nausea, a horrifying prelude to his nightmare. As his condition rapidly deteriorated, doctors struggled to find answers. They were faced with a predator that had only a 1 in a million chance of survival once symptoms appeared. Despite aggressive treatment, Fabrizio succumbed to the amoeba just days after his swim, leaving doctors and family in shock. His tragic demise became a grim reminder of nature's brutality. This deadly encounter with a parasite that turns the brain into mush serves as a chilling warning. Fresh water can be deadly, and the most innocent of activities can lead to unimaginable horror. On July 23, 2013, in the sweltering heat of Florida, a 12-year-old boy named Zachary was plunged into a nightmare most would never fathom. He dove into a warm, stagnant lake, blissfully unaware that lurking beneath the surface was a brain-eating monster, Naegleria fowleri. This single-celled amoeba, notorious for inflicting acute primary amoebic meningoencephalitis, infiltrated his body through his nasal passages. Within days, Zachary transformed from a vibrant boy to a shell of himself. The parasite rapidly invaded his brain, causing relentless headaches, fever, and seizures. As if possessed, he writhed in agony, his body a battleground between his will to survive and the encroaching horror of the amoeba. Doctors, unprepared for such a gruesome foe, struggled against the ticking clock. Zachary's family watched helplessly as he descended into a state of confusion, his vision clouded by the parasite's malevolence. Just days after that innocent plunge, Zachary succumbed to the parasite's savage grip. His tragic end serves as a macabre reminder of nature's darkest threats, lurking in our very own backyards, waiting for the slightest chance to strike. In the summer of 2009, a sinister event unfolded in the shadowy back alleys of Jakarta, Indonesia. A 29-year-old man, unsuspecting and unknowing, encountered the lethal Leptospira bacteria, lurking silently in the murky waters contaminated by rat urine. This parasite, often overlooked, took advantage of his ignorance, seeping into his bloodstream like a thief in the night. It began with a fever, a symptom that seemed benign, but it was merely the appetizer for a gruesome main course. As the days rolled on, the man faced relentless headaches and muscle pain, gradually transforming his body into a battlefield as Leptospira unleashed its fury. His kidneys, the body's filters, started to fail, leaving him gasping for breath and writhing in agony, as if his insides were being twisted by a merciless hand. This was no ordinary illness. It was a silent killer, turning his life into a horror movie. By the time he sought help, it was too late. The hospital became his crypt, filled with the echoes of his suffering, and within days he succumbed to multiple organ failure, leaving behind a trail of disbelief and sorrow. So remember, the next time you see a rat, think twice. It may just be the harbinger of your demise lurking with a deadly secret. In the summer of 1960, Lake Worth, Florida, became the stage for a chilling tragedy. A seemingly innocent swim turned fatal when an unsuspecting young man, 29-year-old Bill S., waded into the warm waters. Little did he know, lurking in the depths was the brain-eating amoeba, Naegleria fowleri. This deadly parasite thrives in fresh, warm water and finds its way into unsuspecting victims through their nasal passages. Bill developed severe headaches and fever just days after his swim. Misdiagnosed at first, the symptoms escalated rapidly. His condition deteriorated, leading to horrific hallucinations and a shocking loss of coordination. The amoeba penetrated his blood-brain barrier, wreaking havoc on his nervous system. In less than a week, Bill succumbed to this insidious killer, leaving behind a community in shock. The chilling reality? This parasite is nearly always fatal, claiming over 97% of its victims. It's a grim reminder that nature has its horrors, lurking beneath the surface, waiting for the next unsuspecting soul to plunge into its depths. Always remember, swimming can be deadly. A day of fun can turn into a nightmare in a heartbeat. In Florida 2016, a man named David faced a nightmare that would haunt him forever. While fishing in a secluded swamp, he unknowingly encountered a flesh-eating parasite, the notorious necrotizing fasciitis. This insidious organism entered his body through a small cut, and within hours it began its gruesome feast. Starting with intense pain, the infection spread like wildfire, consuming his skin and tissue. As David watched in horror, his limb began to rot, turning from flesh to a grotesque display of decay. Friends who noticed the foul smell thought it was just a fishy odor, but it was much worse. By the time he sought medical help, it was almost too late. Doctors raced against time, performing multiple surgeries to remove the infected tissue in a desperate attempt to save his life. Shockingly, David's experience was not unique. This parasite claims many victims each year. The psychological toll was immense. Haunted by the experience, he now carries deep scars, both visible and invisible. Amid the horror, a dark humor emerged as he joked about flesh being the new black. But the reality remains. The battle against these parasites can be fatal, leaving survivors forever altered. In July 2011, in the sweltering heat of Louisiana, a man named Marcus A. was about to encounter a fate so horrific it sounds like a nightmare. Known for his adventurous spirit, Marcus decided to cool off in a freshwater lake near his home. Unbeknownst to him, lurking in the warm waters was a microscopic monster, the brain-eating amoeba, Naegleria fowleri. This single-celled organism is a predator of the human nervous system, and once it enters the body through the nose, it begins a gruesome attack on the brain. Just days after his swim, Marcus fell ill with flu-like symptoms that spiraled into a life-threatening condition. Doctors struggled to diagnose him as his fever soared and his mental state deteriorated. Within a week, he was in a coma, his body succumbing to the parasite's relentless assault. Despite desperate medical efforts, he died, leaving behind a chilling reminder of nature's hidden terrors. The incident sent shockwaves through the community, highlighting the deadly risks of seemingly harmless waters. It's a morbid tale of adventure turned fatal, reminding us that danger often lurks where we least expect it. In a small tanning salon in Florida 2005, a seemingly innocent quest for the perfect tan turned into a nightmare. A woman determined to achieve that sun-kissed glow slipped into a tanning bed, blissfully unaware of the chaos about to unfold. As she reclined, the bed began to malfunction due to a faulty electrical system. Instead of basking in warmth, She was unknowingly in the midst of a ticking time bomb. Suddenly, a spark ignited within the tanning bed, quickly escalating into a blaze fueled by the combination of flammable tanning oils and electrical wiring. Moments later, the bed exploded, sending shards of acrylic in heat flying in all directions. The salon erupted into a scene from a horror movie, with a fiery glow illuminating the chaos. The fire department arrived to find the woman remarkably unharmed, but utterly shell-shocked, standing amidst the wreckage. The incident sparked outrage and led to a widespread recall of faulty tanning equipment, but not without leaving behind a cautionary tale. Sometimes the quest for beauty can take a deadly turn. This bizarre event reminds us that the pursuit of perfection can be explosive, quite literally. In a quiet suburban backyard in May 2019, a man named Jerry was about to unleash hell in his garden. An avid gardener, Jerry spent hours tending to his prized plants. One fateful evening, he decided to experiment with a rare mushroom species he found online without any caution. Ignoring the warning signs, he gleefully planted them, convinced they would make his garden stand out. Little did he know, these mushrooms harbored deadly spores that turned the soil into a toxic wasteland. As he dug in the dirt, he inhaled the vile spores, unaware that he was breathing in his own death sentence. Within hours, Jerry experienced violent hallucinations, believing the garden was alive and attacking him. In a fit of manic desperation, he thrashed around, knocking over tools and screaming at the top of his lungs. His neighbor, drawn by the commotion, found him collapsed, covered in soil and surrounded by mushrooms that seemed to mock his demise. The ambulance arrived too late. Jerry's body was riddled with toxins, and the garden claimed another victim. In the end, his passion became a grim reminder. Sometimes nature bites back fiercely. On July 15, 2020, in a small town in Texas, an ordinary backyard barbecue transformed into an outrageous culinary catastrophe. Meet Chuck, a self-proclaimed bacon aficionado and extreme foodie who decided to take his love for bacon to a whole new level. His vision? A towering bacon tower, drenched in melted butter, garnished with every possible artery-clogging delicacy. Friends gathered, eyes wide as Chuck piled on the bacon, each strip glistening like a golden treasure. He didn't just fry it, he deep-fried it, then slathered it in butter, the scent wafting through the air like a siren's call. In a frenzy of gluttony, Chuck declared a bacon-eating contest. As he devoured strip after greasy strip, he felt invincible, the butter dripping down his chin. But as he reached for one last piece, disaster struck. His heart, overwhelmed by the sheer amount of saturated fat, suddenly gave out. Chuck collapsed into the towering bacon fortress, a tragic monument to his overindulgence. The last thing his friends heard was the sickening crunch of bacon breaking under his weight. Chuck's love for bacon cost him everything, leaving a greasy legacy that would haunt the backyard forever. On a hot summer night in July 2010, at a bustling street fair in New Orleans, a fire breather named Jason took center stage. The crowd roared as he prepared for his breathtaking spectacle, twirling flaming torches and inhaling the fire with all the bravado he could muster. With a smirk and a wink, he launched into his fiery performance, dancing with flames that flicked and licked at the night sky. But this time, something was off. He miscalculated the oil mix. Too thick, too viscous. As he took a deep breath, the flames surged back toward him. In a split second, panic set in. He choked, gasping for air, the fiery plume engulfing him. The crowd went silent, disbelief morphing into horror. Jason tried to recover, but the flames caught the oil in his throat. Instead of a triumphant finale, he collapsed, flames licking around him. Emergency responders rushed in, but it was too late. The onlookers, once thrilled, now stared in shock at the twisted end of his performance. Jason's fiery show became a tragic reminder that playing with fire can lead to a scorching end. His final act was a blaze of glory, extinguished far too soon. On July 15, 2023, in the sunny skies above Lake Tahoe, a group of thrill-seekers prepared for the ultimate adrenaline rush, skydiving from 15,000 feet. Among them was Dave, an experienced jumper who had spent years perfecting his craft. As he geared up, the excitement was palpable, but fate had a different plan in store. The jump commenced flawlessly. The wind whipped through their hair as they fell, laughter echoing in the air. But as Dave deployed his parachute, the unimaginable happened. It failed to open. Panic surged through him like a bolt of lightning. His heart raced as he spiraled toward the earth, a living missile. Below, the ground loomed larger and more menacing. In a desperate bid for survival, Dave attempted to steer himself toward a nearby treeless patch. He hit the ground, but not just any impact. This was a cataclysmic collision, bones shattering like glass. The scene, dotted with bright blood splatters, was a gruesome testament to nature's ruthlessness. Emergency responders arrived, but the damage was done. Dave's skydiving adventure ended in an unexpected symphony of chaos, leaving behind a chilling reminder of the dangers of extreme sports.
In September 1982, a wave of terror swept through Chicago as 7 individuals fell victim to a horrifying poisoning spree. The culprit? The popular painkiller Tylenol, tampered with extra-strength cyanide. It began innocently. People reached for their medicine, but instead of relief, they found their untimely demise. It was a Sunday morning when 12-year-old Mary Kellerman took a Tylenol for a sore throat. Within hours, she was dead. The horror quickly escalated as more victims emerged, including a mother of 3, a young man, and a man visiting relatives. Panic gripped the city as the deaths were linked to the same brand of painkiller. Stores yanked Tylenol from shelves, and fear spread like wildfire. The chaos reached a fever pitch when authorities realized this was not just a freak accident. The killer was out there, lurking, motivated by God knows what. As the investigation unraveled, the media frenzy intensified. The crime scene turned into a circus. Though the killer was never caught, a chilling legacy remained. Over 30 years later, the Tylenol murders haunt Chicago's history, a grim reminder of the dark potential lurking in everyday life. In 2003, Nigeria was struck by a mysterious and terrifying outbreak of monkeypox, a disease that would turn the lives of many into a nightmare. This outbreak, centered in the rural areas of the country, began in late September. The initial cases were linked to the importation of exotic pets, including Gambian pouched rats, which were unknowingly carrying the virus. As these rats spread the disease, humans fell victim to the terrifying symptoms: fever, rashes, and swollen lymph nodes, leading to painful lesions that could leave permanent scars. The sight of these lesions was horrifying, resembling a grotesque form of pox that made even the bravest shudder. The death toll rose as the virus spread, peaking in 2003 with over 70 confirmed cases. The toll on the community was devastating, with families torn apart as loved ones succumbed to this gruesome illness. The Nigerian health system was overwhelmed, struggling to contain the outbreak, which highlighted the country's vulnerability to diseases. Amidst the panic, black humor emerged, with locals joking that monkeypox was just nature's way of reminding humans to stop petting wild animals. But the real horror was in the suffering, the fear, and the loss that monkeypox brought to Nigeria.
In 1959, Milwaukee became the epicenter of a rabies epidemic that left the community reeling. A seemingly innocuous dog bite turned deadly when a rabid dog attacked several residents. As panic spread, so did misinformation about the disease, leading to a frenzy of fear. People were urged to avoid all dogs, and yet the damage had already been done. The virus, lurking silently, attacked the nervous system, transforming once lively individuals into psychotic shells of their former selves. Victims foamed at the mouth, displaying erratic behavior, and ultimately succumbed to the cruel grip of rabies. The city witnessed a nightmare as families lost loved ones to a disease that could have been easily preventable with prompt medical care. The situation escalated to the point where local hospitals were overwhelmed, and the medical community was left grappling with a terrifying reality. Ironically, the rabies vaccine was available, but fear and ignorance prevented many from seeking help. Those affected became unwilling participants in a gruesome tale of survival, as their bodies betrayed them. Milwaukee's rabies epidemic serves as a dark reminder of how quickly life can spiral out of control. In the mid-14th century, Europe faced a horrifying calamity known as the Black Death. Beginning in 1347, this bubonic plague swept across the continent, claiming an estimated 25 million lives, about one-third of Europe's population. The disease struck swiftly and brutally, with symptoms that included painful swollen lymph nodes known as buboes, fever, and chills. Imagine being in a bustling medieval town where suddenly people began collapsing in the streets, their bodies ravaged by a relentless infection. Infected fleas carried on rats were the culprits, spreading the illness like wildfire. Cities such as Florence and Paris became graveyards, with corpses piled high, often left unburied due to the overwhelming death toll. People resorted to desperate measures, some believing it was divine punishment, while others turned to hedonism, thinking they had little time left. Black humor was rampant. Jokes about death became a coping mechanism as the Grim Reaper lurked around every corner. This plague didn't just kill, it dismantled societies, shattered economies, and altered the course of history forever, leaving Europe marked by trauma and loss, a dark chapter indelibly etched in memory. On a bright Saturday morning, an adrenaline junkie named Mike decided he'd conquer his fear of heights by attempting the ultimate bungee jump. The site was notorious for its jaw-dropping views, and Mike couldn't resist. After a few bravado-laden selfies, he strapped into the harness, a mix of excitement and sheer stupidity swirling in his mind. As he peered over the edge, the ground seemed to beckon him like a long-lost lover. With a reckless count of 3, he leaped. The initial rush was pure ecstasy. However, the thrill turned sour in seconds as the bungee cord, poorly secured, snapped with a sickening twang. Mike plummeted towards the rocky riverbed like a human cannonball, blissfully unaware that he was about to meet gravity in the most unforgiving way possible. He impacted with a splat that echoed for miles, a gruesome end that would make even the most seasoned thrill-seekers reconsider their life choices. His remains became a cautionary tale, reminding others that sometimes the thrill of a leap can lead to a deadly fall. This tragic event occurred on April 15, 2023, at a popular bungee site in Colorado.
In the heart of summer, a wild rave erupted on the shores of Lake Misfortune, attracting partygoers craving the thrill of bass pounding in their chests. The DJ, a self-proclaimed master of chaos, was known for his insane stunts, but this time, he took it too far. As the crowd swayed, entranced by the electric atmosphere, he decided to take the party to the next level by diving into the lake fully clothed, all while spinning records from a floating platform. The audience erupted in cheers, thinking he was the ultimate daredevil. But as the beats continued, so did the chaos. With the DJ's ego inflated, he attempted to swim against the waves, but the combination of alcohol and adrenaline clouded his judgment. Suddenly, his performance turned deadly. The currents dragged him under, and the crowd's cheers morphed into screams. Panic spread as people dove in, but not everyone could save their submerged hero. Moments later, a lifeguard's whistle pierced the night, but it was too late. The DJ's last track was a haunting silence as he slipped beneath the surface, never to return. This tragedy unfolded on July 1st, 2023, at Lake Misfortune.
In a dimly lit comedy club, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. Laughter echoed as a seasoned comic took the stage, ready to deliver his best set. He was a master of dark humor, always pushing boundaries. Tonight, he decided to go all out, riffing on taboo topics and making light of life's absurdities. The crowd roared, each joke landing harder than the last. Little did anyone know, his heart was about to stage a tragic joke of its own. As he delivered a particularly risque punchline, the audience erupted in laughter, but he felt a tightness in his chest. He brushed it off, feeding off the crowd's energy, and launched into another bit. The laughter grew louder, but so did the pressure building inside him. His face turned a shade of crimson, a grimace masked by his relentless pursuit of humor. With one final laugh, he collapsed, the microphone clattering to the floor, silencing the laughter in an instant. Shock swept through the crowd as they realized the punchline had turned fatal. What was meant to be a night of laughter ended in tragedy, proving that sometimes the heart just can't take the pressure. This tragic incident occurred on July 15, 2023 in Chicago, Illinois.
In a world where money is king, one man thought he could play the ultimate game of hide and seek with his fortune. He crawled into a vault, a shiny metallic tomb, determined to stash away his cash and count it in peace. But here's the kicker. The vault's security system had a mind of its own. As he stuffed bills into the void, the doors slammed shut, sealing him inside like a sardine in a can. Panic surged through him like a shot of pure adrenaline. He pounded on the door, screamed and begged, but only silence answered. Hours turned into a foreboding eternity. As the air grew stale and the whispering darkness closed in, he realized he was trapped. Not just in a vault, but in a cruel joke orchestrated by his own greed. With no light and no hope, his last thoughts spiraled into despair. His body, once vibrant, now lay in the vault, surrounded by the very money that had led him to this absurd fate. The vault was finally opened the next day, but the only thing left behind was a chilling reminder of how fatal ambition can be. This incident occurred on January 15, 2022, in Las Vegas, Nevada. In a quiet neighborhood, a beer enthusiast attempted to craft the perfect brew, fueled by a misguided sense of adventure and too many online tutorials. Mixing various ingredients, he didn't realize that his concoction had become a volatile cocktail, primed for disaster. As he added yeast, the pressure began to build in the sealed fermentation barrel, creating a tornado of bubbles and anticipation. Little did he know, he was sitting on a ticking time bomb. Hours passed, and he decided to check on his masterpiece, oblivious to the impending doom. He cracked open the barrel, and in a flash, an explosion of beer, foam, and glass erupted with a force that would make a nuclear blast look like a firecracker. His neighbors heard a sound resembling a meteor strike, only to rush out and witness their friend's backyard transformed into a war zone of shattered bottles and sticky liquid. The result? A beer shower of epic proportions, covering him in a thick, frothy layer of his failed brew. The grand finale? A trip to the emergency room for lacerations, and a vital lesson learned about home brewing. Don't play with fermentation unless you want to end up in a sticky situation. This incident occurred on June 4, 2023, in Springfield, Illinois. In a small town in Texas, a peculiar incident unfolded that would leave locals scratching their heads and stifling laughter. A man, known for his peculiar bond with wildlife, decided to feed a vulture he named Gus. Instead of scraps, he offered Gus a whole rotisserie chicken, a feast fit for a king. As Gus dug in, a sudden explosion echoed through the air. The unsuspecting man had unwittingly fed the vulture a chicken stuffed with fireworks, a prank gone horribly, hilariously wrong. In the blink of an eye, feathers erupted, and with them, the vulture's fate was sealed. The man's head was caught in the explosion's shockwave, sending him sprawling backwards. Witnesses reported a comical flurry of feathers mixed with bits of charred meat as panic erupted among the small crowd. The man, dazed and bewildered, was left with a wild, bewildering story that he would only half live to tell. Strangely enough, he survived the mishap, but his reputation as the vulture guy was forever tarnished. A bizarre reminder that nature, when coupled with human stupidity, can lead to explosive consequences. This incident occurred on July 31, 2024, in Texas. In 2009, a backyard barbecue in a quiet neighborhood turned into a scene straight out of a horror flick. What was supposed to be a sizzling summer feast ended with a bang. Literally. Picture this: a group of friends gathered, drinks flowing, the smell of steak on the grill filling the air. But lurking beneath the surface was a deadly mix of negligence and flammable materials. The grill was poorly maintained, and someone thought it'd be a smart idea to add lighter fluid to the already raging fire. Boom! A fireball erupted, launching a flaming steak into the sky like a grotesque meteorite. One guy stumbled backward in shock, tripping over a cooler filled with beer, which, of course, exploded upon impact. The entire yard was engulfed in flames, and chaos reigned supreme as people screamed, ran, and tried to extinguish the inferno. When the smoke cleared, It wasn't just charred meat that remained. The aftermath left behind a smoldering reminder of how a simple barbecue can go south. So, the next time you fire up the grill, remember this tragic tale and don't be a fool with lighter fluid. Safety first, or you might end up as the punchline of a morbid joke. On a balmy evening in Brooklyn, New York, in July 2024, a local pizzeria was bustling with customers, eager for a slice of their famous steak and cheese pizza. The place was packed, a delightful chaos of laughter and the aroma of baked dough hanging in the air. But amidst the joy, an avian horror was about to unfold. A window left ajar invited a flock of pigeons into the mix. What started as a harmless sight soon spiraled into a feathered frenzy. As the pizza chef tossed dough into the air, a pigeon swooped down and snagged a glistening piece of steak right from the counter. The patrons gasped, some laughed, but the pigeons weren't done yet. In a split second, the whole flock descended, turning the pizzeria into a war zone of flapping wings and terrified screams. Customers, now dodging dive-bombing pigeons, scrambled for cover as pizzas became the least of their worries. The chaos peaked when a pigeon, overstuffed with steak, took a nosedive into the chef's pizza oven, igniting the whole place into a fiery inferno. The fire alarm screamed as patrons fled, leaving behind a once vibrant eatery now reduced to ash and chaos, proving that sometimes dinner can be deadly. In the summer of 2021, at a popular bungee jumping site in New Zealand, a man named Jason decided to conquer his fear. The view was breathtaking, the adrenaline was pumping, but the safety checks? Neglected. As he stood at the edge, that flimsy cord was his only lifeline, a pathetic excuse for safety. Little did he know, it had seen better days, frayed by the sun and time, like an old rubber band ready to snap. The operator, too busy flirting with a group of rowdy tourists, had failed to check the equipment properly. With a deep breath and a roar, Jason leaped into the abyss, feeling like a god for a fleeting moment. But that thrill quickly turned to horror. The cord snapped like a cheap rubber band, sending him plummeting towards the ground. He hit the rocky surface below with a sickening thud, a grotesque splatter of flesh and bone. The impact was fatal, his body a crumpled mess, a tragic art piece of negligence. The crowd gasped, laughter turned to screams, and just like that, a thrilling day morphed into a grim reminder of oversight. Jason's leap of faith became a grotesque lesson in negligence, proving once and for all. Sometimes, thrill-seeking comes with a deadly price tag, and the price is often paid in blood. In a quaint little coffee shop on the corner of a bustling street, a barista named Sam was known for his insane love for caffeine. He prided himself on crafting the perfect espresso, transforming innocent beans into liquid energy. However, Sam's obsession took a dark turn. He began concocting wild drinks, pushing the limits of caffeine levels, mixing shots like a mad scientist on a caffeine-fueled bender. One fateful morning, in a caffeine-induced frenzy, he decided to create a drink that would make even the toughest coffee lover weep. He whipped up a monstrous blend of espresso, cold brew, and an absurd amount of caffeine powder. Customers watched in horror and fascination as he downed this concoction in one swift motion. But this time, the coffee didn't fuel his passion. It turned into his deadly cocktail. Moments later, Sam's heart raced like a hamster on a wheel, and then came the inevitable crash. He crumpled to the floor, a grimace stuck on his face. In a tragic comedy of errors, he died with a Starbucks cup in one hand and dreams of caffeine glory in the other, proving that sometimes too much of a good thing can really kill you. The coffee shop was never the same again. On March 12, 2003, in a quaint diner nestled in New Jersey, a seemingly innocent bowl of cereal turned into a chilling death trap. It was just another morning, with the smell of coffee swirling in the air and the clatter of dishes providing a comforting background. A patron, blissfully unaware of the lurking danger, dove into a bowl of his favorite cereal. But this cereal was no ordinary breakfast. It was a ticking time bomb, a sinister concoction waiting to unleash its horror. The unsuspecting diner choked violently, gasping for breath as his face contorted in panic, eyes wide with terror. The jagged edges of the cereal cut through his throat like a razor, a gruesome fate for anyone craving a simple meal. Fellow customers watched in horror, frozen in disbelief as they realized this was not just a breakfast gone wrong. It was a dark joke played by fate itself. The once lively diner transformed into a scene of chaos, laughter replaced with screams and frantic calls for help. EMTs arrived minutes later, but the damage was done. The serial killer had claimed its victim. This incident was a harsh reminder. Even the most mundane moments can shift into horror. So, have you heard of any similar experiences? What would you do if your breakfast turned deadly? In a quiet city park in Ohio, July 2015, a seemingly innocent day turned sinister on the playground. Kids laughed as they took turns on the seesaw, unaware of the lurking danger. One boy, a spirited 8-year-old named Tommy, was eager to show off his skills. But as he bounced up and down, he didn't notice his older friend, Jake, gaining momentum on the other side. In a cruel twist of fate, Jake went too high, lost his grip, and fell hard onto the ground, knocking the wind out of him. But that was just the beginning. As Jake lay gasping, Tommy's side shot up unexpectedly, sending him flying into the air. Gravity took hold, and down he went, right onto a rusty metal spike protruding from the old playground equipment. The horrifying thud echoed through the park, mingling with the children's laughter, now replaced with screams. The horror of that moment rippled throughout the community, leaving parents clinging to their children tighter than ever before. Playground safety was never the same. What do you think about this tragic incident? Have you heard of any similar experiences? Share your thoughts in the comments below. In 1989, a seemingly innocent park in Riverside, California, played host to a horrifying incident involving children and a swing set that would become infamous. It was a sunny afternoon. Laughter echoed, but beneath the surface, a sinister fate awaited. Unbeknownst to the children and their carefree parents, the ground beneath the swing set had been corroded by a recent flood, leaving it precariously unstable. As a group of kids took turns swinging high, the earth began to moan and crack. Suddenly, without warning, the ground collapsed. The swing set plunged into a hidden sinkhole filled with murky water. The merry shrieks turned to screams as children were swallowed whole by the dark, icy depths. Parents rushed, but it was too late. The park transformed into a scene of chaos and despair. Local authorities arrived, but the memories of joy turned to nightmares as kids were rescued. But some were lost forever, consumed by the depths of the swing set's tragic pull. This dark event still haunts the park, a reminder of how quickly joy can drown in despair. What do you think about this chilling tale? Have you heard of any eerie experiences like this? Share your thoughts in the comments. In July 1518, Strasbourg faced an inexplicable epidemic known as the Dancing Plague. It began with a single woman named Frau Trophea, who started dancing fervently in the streets, seemingly unable to stop. Within days, dozens joined her, moving to an unseen rhythm, their bodies worn and weary, yet driven by an uncontrollable compulsion. Townsfolk were both amused and horrified as the bizarre spectacle unfolded, a mix of public entertainment and macabre tragedy. Doctors, baffled and desperate, suggested various remedies, from herbs to bloodletting, none to avail. The authorities, mistaking it for a need for more dance floors, even constructed a stage, believing that more dancing would cure the afflicted. This chaotic episode spiraled, with dozens dancing for days, some collapsing from exhaustion, others even dying. Imagine the panic. People were literally dancing their lives away, while onlookers laughed, unsure whether to join in or run. This strange event raises questions about the power of mass hysteria and the mind's grip on the body. Perhaps it reflects the stress of the times, famine, disease, and hardship, manifesting in an oddly humorous yet tragic dance of death. In August 2021, a family from Lake Worth, Florida, embarked on what they thought would be a fun-filled day at the local river. Their laughter and joy filled the air as they splashed in the water, unaware of the lurking danger beneath the surface. Just days later, tragedy struck when a 10-year-old boy, after swimming, began experiencing severe headaches, fever, and nausea. His symptoms worsened rapidly, prompting his parents to rush him to the emergency room. Doctors were baffled at first, and time was slipping away. After tests, they received the devastating diagnosis: Naegleria fowleri, a brain-eating amoeba. This rare but lethal parasite thrives in warm, fresh water and enters the body through the nose, leading to a swift and brutal infection. The boy was placed in intensive care, but the relentless parasite continued its assault. Within a week, he succumbed to the infection, leaving his family shattered and heartbroken. This incident serves as a haunting reminder of the hidden dangers in seemingly innocent waters, urging everyone to stay vigilant about safety while enjoying recreational activities. In a small town, a man named Mark, an avid swimmer, dove into a local river on a hot July day. Unbeknownst to him, the water harbored Naegleria fowleri, a lethal parasite. Days later, he began experiencing intense headaches, a relentless pounding that throbbed against his skull. Within hours, fever and nausea followed, leaving him weak and disoriented. His reality shifted into a nightmare. Mark's vision blurred, and he struggled to find balance. Friends noticed his erratic behavior. He laughed and cried without reason. Each moment grew more terrifying as his body succumbed to the parasite's cruel grasp. Soon, seizures twisted his body, contorting him and leaving him gasping for breath. Doctors were baffled at first, unaware that the parasite was invading his brain, causing encephalitis. As his condition worsened, Mark's hallucinations began, horrific visions devouring his mind. His family watched helplessly, grief-stricken as they witnessed this vibrant man transformed into a shell of his former self. The fight against Naegleria fowleri was brutal and unrelenting, ultimately culminating in a tragic end that left a haunting mark on those who loved him. A grim reminder of nature's hidden dangers lurked in the waters, waiting for the next victim. In a sterile operating room in 2001, Los Angeles became the backdrop for a truly bizarre tragedy. A skilled brain surgeon, known for his steady hand and precision, faced an unexpected death that would leave everyone in shock. The scene unfolded as he was deep into a complex neurosurgery, surrounded by a team of eager assistants and nurses, all focused on the task at hand. But this wasn't just any surgery. It was a battle against the clock, and under the pressure, chaos reigned. As he meticulously wielded his scalpel, disaster struck in the most unexpected way. During a critical moment, a nurse accidentally knocked over a tray filled with surgical tools, sending instruments clattering to the floor. In an instant, the doctor stumbled backward, losing his footing on the slick tiles. In a grotesque twist of fate, he fell directly onto his own scalpel, the very instrument he had relied on to save lives. The irony was thick as he lay there, a victim of his own art, blood pooling around him. The operating room echoed with screams and panic, but this bizarre death was not just a freak accident. It was a haunting reminder of how quickly things can spiral out of control. Have you heard of any similar experiences? Share your thoughts in the comments below. In a quiet suburb of Seattle, Washington, on a sunny afternoon in June 2010, a bizarre and violent episode unfolded. A man, engrossed in mowing his lawn, faced an unimaginable fate when his mower unexpectedly malfunctioned. Instead of a routine trim, this cheerful chore turned into a gruesome spectacle when the mower took off, becoming a ferocious beast of metal and blades. As the mower sped away, the man tried to regain control, but fate had other plans. In a horrifying split second, the mower veered wildly, and with a sickening crunch, it decapitated him. His head rolled alarmingly under the runaway mower, while the chaos painted a macabre picture of what was once a peaceful yard. It was a scene straight out of a horror film, blood mixing with grass clippings, the air filled with the metallic scent of violence. Neighbors could only stand in shock, witnessing the gruesome aftermath of a lawn care gone terribly wrong. This incident serves as a chilling reminder of how quickly life can change. Have you ever heard of such a bizarre mishap? Share your thoughts on this grotesque event in the comments below, and let us know if you have any wild experiences to share. In a quiet suburb in Florida on July 15, 2012, a seemingly normal pool party transformed into a scene of pure chaos. Guests were enjoying the sun when an unusual influx of frogs invaded the backyard. At first, it was a funny spectacle as people laughed and splashed around, unaware of the danger lurking beneath the surface. Suddenly, a group of frogs, seemingly agitated, leaped into the pool. In a bizarre twist, the amphibians began to attack. With a hostile frenzy, they latched onto anything that moved, not just the unsuspecting swimmers. Panic erupted as guests flailed to escape this slimy onslaught. One unfortunate soul, overwhelmed by the sheer number of frogs, slipped and hit their head on the pool's edge, leading to a tragic turn of events. The scene was surreal. Laughter turned to screams as more frogs joined the madness. The water turned murky with chaos, and by the time help arrived, the pool was a gruesome sight. A pool party had morphed into a deadly amphibious assault. This bizarre incident left everyone shocked. Have you ever heard of any experiences like this? Share your thoughts in the comments. In a bustling diner in New Orleans, Louisiana, on a fateful evening in 2015, a man found himself in a situation that can only be described as a culinary nightmare. Working late and tired of his mundane job, he was tasked with cleaning the deep fryer. Little did he know, this routine task would turn into a horrific spectacle. As he leaned over the hot oil, a sudden slip sent him tumbling headfirst into the bubbling cauldron. The fryer, a beast of its own, erupted with a violent splash, and in seconds, he was engulfed. The oil, heated to a searing temperature, melted away his skin and cooked him alive, transforming him into a grotesque dish no one wanted to order. His screams echoed through the kitchen, but the fryer, relentless and hungry, drowned them out. The aroma that filled the air was a twisted blend of fried food and horror, as shocked co-workers stood frozen, unsure whether to call for help or run for their lives. This darkly comedic tale serves as a grim reminder of how quickly life can take a turn for the worse. Have you heard of any bizarre incidents like this? Share your wild stories in the comments below. In Texas, 2005, a bizarre competition took a deadly turn during a goat-chucking contest. This wasn't your average county fair event. It was a wild, reckless showdown where competitors flung goats into the air for glory and laughs. But then, one farmer stepped up, a bit too eager for fame, and that's where things took a dark twist. As he hoisted a hefty goat, the animal was clearly not thrilled about its airborne fate. In a split second, it transformed from a flying goat to a furious projectile, landing on the ground with a vengeance. The enraged beast charged back at its assailant, goring him right in the gut with a force that would make any bull jealous. One moment, he was the star of the show, basking in the cheers of the crowd, and the next he was on the ground, gasping for breath, his dreams of goat-chucking glory shattered. The audience, expecting a laugh, was instead met with the grim reality of a man meeting his end at the hands of an unforgiving goat. It's a wild reminder that sometimes you shouldn't mess with nature or livestock. What do you think about this ridiculous yet tragic incident? Have you heard of any wild experiences yourself? Share in the comments. In a twisted scene that could only be described as tragicomic, a diver met his end during a stunt gone horribly wrong on August 15, 2010, in Santa Monica, California. This guy, a seasoned professional, was poised to make a spectacular splash off a high dive. But as fate would have it, a taco truck parked below was about to become the star of this gruesome spectacle. Just as he launched himself into the air, the taco truck's propane tank exploded, sending flames and metal flying in every direction. The diver, who should have been gracefully plunging into the water, instead plummeted directly into the inferno created by the blast. The audience gasped in horror as the two worlds collided. An aerial display turned into a fiery death spiral. The once vibrant food truck was now a charred wreck. and the diver's final moments were nothing short of a bizarre conflation of gourmet and gore. The smell of burnt tacos mixed with the acrid scent of smoke, creating a surreal atmosphere. Dark humor aside, it's a harsh reminder of how quickly fun can turn fatal. Have you ever heard of any crazy incidents like this? Share your thoughts in the comments and tell us if you've experienced anything wild yourself. In a reckless display of bravado, a man named Kyle decided to take on the towering cliffs of Moab, Utah, one fateful night in June 2010. Fueled by alcohol and a mindless urge to impress his friends, he clambered up the jagged rocks, laughing off the dangerous heights. As his buddies egged him on, Kyle soon reached the summit, intoxicated and oblivious to the peril below. The thrill of the climb turned into a horrid spectacle when he attempted to perform a ridiculous stunt. With a drunken swagger, he lost his footing, sending him tumbling down the cliffside. The drop was a staggering 300 feet. A sickening crunch echoed through the night air as his body crashed against the unforgiving rocks. The horrified friends who had cheered him on now stood paralyzed, witnessing the grotesque end of their drunken daredevil. Emergency crews arrived, but it was too late. The fateful decision to climb while inebriated had sealed Kyle's fate. So, what do you think about this reckless act? Have you ever heard of any wild experiences that push the limits of stupidity? Share your thoughts in the comments below. In a bizarre incident that took place on July 15, 2011, in a suburban backyard in Phoenix, Arizona, a man decided to spice up a dull day with a prank involving a slingshot. He thought it would be hilarious to launch a watermelon toward his friends. As he pulled back the elastic, his friends laughed, unaware of the impending disaster. With a sudden release, the watermelon soared into the air, but the slingshot had been rigged poorly. Instead of the intended target, the slingshot snapped back violently, launching the arm of the man directly into his face with catastrophic force. It didn't just hurt, it literally knocked him unconscious. What was meant to be a harmless joke turned fatal as he fell, hitting his head on the concrete. It was a sight no one was prepared for. Friends rushed to call for help, but it was too late. The man succumbed to his injuries, leaving behind a tragic reminder of how dark humor can take a lethal turn. So, what do you think about this ridiculous and tragic prank gone wrong? Have you ever heard of any crazy experiences like this? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Picture this: a bathroom in a suburban home in Omaha, Nebraska, 2006. The air is thick with steam, and the porcelain throne gleams like a beacon of relief. But lurking beneath that surface is danger. Meet Charlie, an average guy with an extraordinary love for his nightly routine. One fateful evening, Charlie steps out of the shower, a slippery floor awaiting him like a hidden assassin. He reaches for the towel rack, but fate had other plans. His foot slides on the wet tiles, and down he goes, crashing onto the cold, unforgiving floor. The thud echoes, a grim drumroll for the unfolding catastrophe. Unbeknownst to him, the impact ruptured a blood vessel in his head. In mere minutes, he's lying there, a tragic comedy of errors, a towel barely covering his dignity as his life slips away. The bathroom, once a sanctuary, becomes the stage for his final act. Paradoxically, the very place meant for cleansing turned into a portal to the afterlife. So, dear viewers, what do you think of Charlie's untimely demise? Have you ever encountered a close call in a bathroom? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. In a dimly lit tattoo parlor in Orlando, Florida, on a sweltering summer day in 2010, a bizarre incident unfolded. Meet Paul, a 30-year-old man with a penchant for tattoos and an even bigger love for reckless decisions. He walked into the shop, craving a new ink piece that would epitomize his wild lifestyle. The tattoo artist, with hands shaky from a recent night of excessive partying, started sketching a complex design on Paul's forearm. But here's where it gets sinister. In a moment of distraction, the artist accidentally introduced a contaminated needle. The ink, meant to bring art and joy, became a deadly cocktail of infections coursing through Paul's veins. Within days, he was struck with feverish chills and relentless pain, but he brushed it off, too busy flaunting his new ink to notice the warning signs. Friends admired the gory masterpiece, unaware it was a ticking time bomb. Just a week later, Paul succumbed to septic shock, his vibrant tattoo transforming into a grotesque horror. The moral? Sometimes creativity can bite back with a vengeance. So, have you heard of any wild tattoo mishaps? Tell us your thoughts in the comments today.